Hello, everyone. My name is Anna. I am a 50-year-old woman, and this is my story. It was the silence that first unsettled me. After a lifetime of living in the city, surrounded by the hum of traffic, the distant cries of neighbors, and the never-ending clamor of human lives intertwined, the quiet of the countryside was almost deafening. Here, sounds arrived in whispers: the rustle of leaves, the calls of unseen birds, the occasional creak of the house settling into the earth. But I had come here for this, for the quiet, for the chance to live deliberately. After 53 years of people, meetings, deadlines, and constant movement, I was exhausted in ways I didn't fully understand. The city no longer felt like home. It felt like a cage I'd outgrown. That's how I found myself here, staring out over acres of untamed land, with no idea how to make any of it work. The first few days were a blur of unpacking boxes and making countless lists of things I'd need: seeds, tools, fertilizer, maybe even a chicken or two. But the land intimidated me. I didn't know where to start. I knew how to design reports and build presentations, not how to grow food and coax life from the earth. It was after a particularly frustrating attempt at building a compost bin that I first met Laura. "Looks like you could use a hand," she called from the edge of my fence, her voice low and calm, carrying easily over the distance between us. I looked up, surprised to see a woman of about 60, with cropped silver hair and deep-set eyes that sparkled with quiet intelligence. "I'm afraid I might be out of my depth," I admitted, wiping the sweat from my forehead with the back of my hand. She chuckled, stepping closer and extending a hand. "I'm Laura. Moved here 10 years ago. Used to be an engineer." Her grip was firm, warm. "I think I know a thing or two about compost bins." And so it began. Laura became a frequent presence at my side, her capable hands and easygoing manner bringing life to projects that had overwhelmed me. Together, we built a compost system, planned the layout of the garden, and even erected a small chicken coop. Days turned into weeks, and I found myself anticipating her visits. She was practical, methodical, and surprisingly gentle. Where I fumbled, she guided me patiently, her hands steady and sure on my own. Slowly, she became not just my neighbor, but my friend, and in that friendship, a quiet longing started to grow, a warmth I hadn't felt in years. One evening, after a particularly hot day spent working together under the blazing sun, she invited me over for tea. Her house was a modest cottage, warmly lit and filled with books and half-finished projects. We sat across from each other, the small table between us cluttered with cups, loose herbs, and a soft blanket of twilight. "You look happy here," she observed, her eyes soft as she studied me. Her gaze was so piercing. I felt she could see everything I tried to keep hidden, even from myself. "I didn't realize how unhappy I'd been until I left the city," I confessed, surprised at my own honesty. Her hand rested on mine, a simple touch, but one that felt like a lifeline in a vast open sea. "There's something about this life that changes you," she murmured, her fingers gently squeezing mine. A shiver traveled up my arm, her touch igniting something within me I had thought long buried. Our eyes met, and in that gaze, I saw my own desire mirrored back at me, a longing that felt both thrilling and terrifying. It was a connection deeper than words, a quiet intimacy that left me breathless. In the days that followed, our work together took on a different rhythm. The air between us was charged, every brush of our hands and shared glance laden with unspoken meaning. I began to notice the smallest things about her, the way her lips curved into a smile, the softness of her voice, the warmth of her laughter. One evening, as we sat side by side on the porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, she reached out, brushing a loose strand of hair from my face. Her touch was light, almost hesitant, as though testing the boundaries of this new closeness. "Stay," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. I felt my pulse quicken, a slow, steady thrum that echoed in the quiet of the evening. In that moment, there was no hesitation, no fear, I leaned into her touch, my lips meeting hers in a kiss that was both tender and electric. A connection that felt like coming home. The world around us faded, and in that embrace, I felt more alive than I had in years. In the weeks that followed, Laura and I fell into a new kind of routine. Our days were spent working the land side by side. Our conversations a quiet background, hummed to the chirping of birds and the rustle of the wind through the tall grass. Each evening, we'd retire to her cottage or mine, where we'd share simple meals and stories from our lives before we met. First, we kept a bit of distance, as though the intimacy of that first night might have been a fragile thing, a moment that couldn't bear the weight of the everyday. But little by little, our hesitations faded, and we began to share our quiet world more openly. One afternoon, as the sun blazed high above us, Laura paused, wiping her brow and casting her eyes over the small patch of land we'd worked so hard to cultivate. "It's coming together, you know," she said, her voice filled with a quiet pride that I'd rarely heard from her. I followed her gaze, taking in the neat rows of vegetables, the vibrant green leaves pushing up through the dark soil. There was a satisfaction in seeing our labor take root, in knowing we were building something real, something lasting. "Yeah," I replied, reaching out to squeeze her hand. "And I never could have done it without you." She looked at me, her eyes softening. "I think you could have," she murmured. But she didn't pull her hand away. Instead, she let her fingers intertwine with mine, her grip warm and steady. The afternoon sun cast a golden glow over everything, and in that moment, the air between us seemed to hum with something unspoken, a connection that ran deeper than the words we shared. I felt myself leaning toward her, and she met me halfway, her lips brushing mine in a kiss that was gentle and unhurried, like the land around us. As summer stretched on, the farm began to flourish, and so did our relationship. We settled into an easy rhythm, our days shaped by the work we did together and the quiet, tender moments we shared in the cool shade of the trees. One evening, after a particularly hot day, we found ourselves down by the small stream that ran along the edge of my property. The water was clear and cool, shimmering under the fading light of the setting sun. Laura kicked off her shoes and waded in, laughing as the water splashed up around her ankles. "Come on," she called, holding out a hand to me. I hesitated for a moment, then took her hand and stepped into the stream, the cool water a welcome relief against my sun-warmed skin. We stood there for a moment, side by side, letting the water flow around us. And then, without warning, she splashed me, her laughter ringing out across the quiet evening. "Oh, you're going to regret that," I teased, reaching down to splash her back. Soon, we were both laughing, water flying around us as we chased each other through the stream like kids, our laughter echoing off the trees. Eventually, we collapsed on the grassy bank, breathless and soaked, the warmth of our bodies mingling with the coolness of the evening air. Laura lay beside me, her head resting on my shoulder, her fingers tracing small circles on my arm. There was a quiet intimacy in the way she touched me, a softness that made me feel safe, cherished. I turned to face her, drawn into the warmth of her gaze, the kindness in her eyes a reflection of everything we had built together here on this little patch of land. We lay there in silence, letting the quiet of the evening settle around us, our breaths falling into a steady rhythm. Her hand moved to rest on my cheek, her thumb brushing softly over my skin. I closed my eyes, leaning into her touch, savoring the warmth that bloomed in my chest, spreading through me like the gentle glow of the setting sun. Slowly, our faces drifted closer, and I felt her breath against my lips, soft and steady. She kissed me with a tenderness that took my breath away, a kiss that spoke of promises and quiet dreams, of shared mornings and endless afternoons beneath open skies. Her hand moved to rest against my back, pulling me closer, and I felt the familiar comfort of her presence, the way we seemed to fit together so easily. As the stars began to appear above us, we lay there, wrapped in each other's arms, our movements slow and unhurried, savoring the closeness that had grown between us over months of shared laughter and whispered secrets. Each touch, each gentle caress, felt like a quiet revelation, a reminder of the joy we had found in each other's company. In the quiet of the night, with only the soft rustle of leaves around us, we held each other close, our hearts beating in perfect harmony. It was a moment of pure connection, of feeling known and loved in a way that went beyond words. And as I lay there beside her, enveloped in the warmth of her embrace, I knew that this quiet, steady love was something I had been waiting for my whole life. As the kiss deepened, the world around us faded into the background, leaving only the soft sounds of the stream and the gentle rustle of the trees. Laura's hand slid from my back to my waist, her fingers exploring the contours of my body with a tenderness that sent shivers down my spine. I responded instinctively, leaning into her, my own hands finding their way to her shoulders, pulling her closer still. "Is this okay?" she whispered against my lips, her breath warm and inviting. I nodded, my heart racing, feeling a blend of excitement and vulnerability. "More than okay," I managed to reply, my voice barely above a whisper. We shifted slightly, the grass beneath us softening our bodies as we sank deeper into the moment. I could feel the heat radiating from her skin, a warmth that contrasted beautifully with the cool evening air. Every caress felt electric, igniting something deep within me that I had thought long dormant. With a careful grace, Laura began to explore my body more fully, her hands brushing against my arms, down my sides, igniting sensations I hadn't experienced in years. I felt alive and wanted in a way that was both exhilarating and overwhelming. My heart swelled with affection, and I found myself surrendering to the warmth of her touch, allowing her to guide me into a world that felt both familiar and new. "Let's go inside," Laura suggested, her voice laced with a gentle urgency. I nodded, breathless, and together we stood, still feeling the remnants of the cool water on our skin, the air charged with unspoken desire. As we stepped inside her cottage, the warmth enveloped us like a comforting blanket. The soft glow of the lamps created a cozy atmosphere, and I felt my heart race as she led me to the living room. The scent of lavender lingered in the air, mingling with the earthy aroma of the wood around us, creating an intimate sanctuary. Laura turned to face me, her eyes sparkling with a mix of anticipation and affection. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice steady yet soft. I took a moment to look at her, really look at her. The lines of her face, the softness in her eyes, the way she exuded strength and warmth. It all reassured me. I reached out to cup her cheek, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my palm. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I replied, my heart full. With that, she closed the distance between us again, capturing my lips in a kiss that felt both tender and urgent. The world outside faded, and all that mattered was the two of us in that moment, bound by the feelings we had cultivated over time. Slowly, we made our way to her bedroom, the soft light illuminating the space in a warm, inviting glow. The bed was covered in a quilt that Laura had made herself, a patchwork of colors and textures that spoke to her creativity and warmth. As I sat on the edge, she stepped closer, her fingers trailing lightly down my arms, sending sparks through my skin. "Just take your time," she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle around us, a gentle invitation to explore without rushing, to savor every moment as it came. We leaned into each other, our kisses growing more fervent, filled with a shared desire that seemed to swell between us, like the very earth we had nurtured together. With each kiss, we explored the contours of each other's bodies, our hands moving with a careful reverence. It felt as if we were both discovering uncharted territory, tracing the paths of longing and affection that had brought us to this moment. I let my fingers glide along her waist, feeling the warmth of her skin beneath my touch, while she responded with soft gasps that sent a thrill through me. The intimacy we shared was profound, built not just on physical attraction, but on the deep connection we had forged over the months. As our kisses deepened, the world around us disappeared, leaving only the two of us, wrapped in a cocoon of warmth and affection. With gentle determination, we continued to explore, our movements unhurried and filled with an exquisite tenderness. Laura's hands wandered over my back, pulling me closer, and I melted against her, my heart racing as I savored every moment of our connection. It was a dance of trust and vulnerability, a celebration of everything we had built together. And as we finally surrendered to the depths of our emotions, I knew that this was just the beginning of something beautiful, a journey that would take us further than we could have ever imagined. In each other's arms, we found not only passion, but a sense of belonging. A love that blossomed like the flowers we had planted together, thriving in the warmth of our shared life. As we drifted into a peaceful embrace, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude wash over me. I had finally found my place, not just in this world, but in Laura's heart, where I knew I was meant to be. The soft light of the room wrapped around us, casting gentle shadows as I pulled Laura closer, feeling the heat radiating from her body. Our kisses deepened, filled with an urgency that spoke of everything we had kept unspoken for too long. I felt her warmth against me, every brush of her lips igniting a fire within that I had thought was extinguished. Laura's hands moved with purpose, tracing the outline of my waist before venturing up my back, fingers dancing along my spine. Each touch sent electric pulses through me, awakening sensations I had buried beneath years of routine and silence. I gasped softly against her mouth, lost in the rhythm we were creating together. "Tell me what you want," she whispered, her voice thick with desire, her breath hot against my skin. I looked into her eyes, dark and inviting, filled with a mix of longing and confidence. "I want you, Laura. I want all of you," I confessed, the words spilling from my lips like a prayer. She smiled, a knowing smile that ignited the air between us. With a gentle tug, she pulled me back onto the quilt-covered bed, the fabric cool against my heated skin. I sank into it, feeling the softness cradle me as she hovered above, her body a warm weight that pressed down on me, filling the space with a heady mix of anticipation and tenderness. Laura took her time, exploring every inch of me with her hands and lips, as if memorizing my body like a favorite song. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the sensations that washed over me, the soft press of her mouth against my collarbone, the teasing flick of her tongue as it traced my skin. Each caress sent ripples of pleasure coursing through me, drawing me deeper into this beautiful connection we were creating. I responded in kind, my hands finding their way to her waist, my fingers brushing the delicate fabric of her shirt. Slowly, I inched it up, revealing the soft curves of her body beneath. I marveled at the sight, the beauty of her form bathed in the warm light of the room, and I leaned forward, kissing a path from her collarbone down to the swell of her breasts. "Anna," she breathed, her voice trembling with the weight of our shared desire. The sound of my name on her lips was like music, urging me onward. I reveled in the way she responded, her body arching towards me, hungry for my touch. "Let me," I murmured, my lips trailing lower, tasting her skin, exploring every curve and contour with a reverence that felt both new and exhilarating. I wanted to savor her, to worship the ground we stood on together, and the way our bodies moved in sync with one another. Laura gasped as I kissed her softly, my hands caressing her sides, fingers weaving through the silken strands of her hair, drawing her even closer. I could feel the warmth of her breath against my skin, a whisper of reassurance that we were both lost in this moment together. With every kiss, we sank deeper into one another, our bodies a tangle of limbs and warmth, the connection between us electric and alive. I lost myself in the way she moved, in the way her hands explored my body with a confidence that inspired me. Together, we were discovering uncharted territories, and with each touch, each gasp, we revealed our vulnerabilities, our passions, and our desires. Time seemed to lose all meaning as we became enveloped in our shared intimacy. The world outside faded, leaving only the two of us, lost in a sea of warmth and sensation, surrendering to the rhythm of our bodies and hearts. More, Laura breathed, her voice a husky whisper that sent a thrill through me. I obliged, losing myself in the embrace of her love, tracing our desires like a map, discovering new paths to explore with every soft sigh and whispered encouragement. We moved together, our bodies finding a rhythm that felt primal and intoxicating, as though the very earth beneath us thrummed with the energy we created. Each moment was a revelation, an unearthing of everything we had held back, a release of the love that had blossomed so unexpectedly between us. As we surrendered to the depths of our passion, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me, a feeling that I had finally found my home, within the warmth of her arms, the depths of her heart, and the wild, beautiful love we had nurtured together. With a boldness that surprised even me, I reached up, my fingers finding the hem of her shirt and lifting it slowly, savoring the way her skin glowed under the soft light. "Let me see you," I breathed, my voice thick with yearning. She hesitated for a heartbeat, her eyes searching mine for reassurance, and I nodded, my heart racing with the promise of what was to come. As she peeled the shirt away, revealing her soft curves and the delicate beauty of her form, I was struck by the sight, the way her body flowed with grace, the way she radiated warmth and confidence. "Beautiful," I breathed, the words spilling from my lips like a benediction as I reached out to trace the lines of her silhouette, my fingers gliding across her skin, feeling the heat of her body beneath my touch. Laura's breath caught, and she leaned into me, her skin warm and inviting. "Anna," she sighed, her voice a sultry whisper that sent a shiver of anticipation coursing through me. In that moment, I lost myself in her. Our lips met once more, the kiss igniting a wildfire that spread through my entire being. I pulled her closer, feeling the softness of her skin against my own, the way our bodies fit together as if they were always meant to be intertwined. With a surge of desire, I rolled us over, positioning myself above her, my weight resting gently against her. I could feel her heart racing beneath me, echoing the rhythm of my own, and I lowered my lips to her neck, kissing my way down to her collarbone, my tongue teasing the delicate skin there. She arched beneath me, her hands weaving into my hair, urging me on, her soft moans urging me to explore further. "More, Anna," she urged, her voice a heady mixture of desperation and desire. I felt a surge of exhilaration at her words, and I descended lower, trailing kisses across her chest, taking my time as I worshipped her body with every brush of my lips. The taste of her skin was intoxicating, a blend of salt and sweetness, and I couldn't get enough. I explored her curves with reverence, my hands tracing the lines of her waist, the gentle swell of her hips, the soft curves that beckoned me closer. "God, you feel amazing," I whispered, my voice thick with desire as I pressed kisses along her stomach, my breath hot against her skin. I felt her shudder beneath my touch, the way her body responded to every caress, igniting a primal need within me. "Anna?" Laura gasped, her voice laced with urgency, and it was a siren's call that drew me back up to her lips. I captured her mouth once more, the kiss deepening as I lost myself in the taste of her. Our tongues danced together, a beautiful harmony of exploration and passion, and I felt the world outside slip away completely. With every kiss, every soft sigh, we ignited the air around us, building a fire that threatened to consume us both. I felt her hands moving over my back, her touch a burning trail that sent waves of desire cascading through me, leaving me breathless and wanting more. "Let me take care of you," I breathed against her lips, and I could see the desire mirrored in her gaze, a promise of pleasure and connection that made my heart race. With renewed determination, I trailed my kisses lower again, taking my time as I explored her body, every curve and contour a feast for my senses. I relished in the soft sighs that escaped her lips, the way her body responded to my every touch, arching into me, encouraging me to delve deeper into this beautiful connection we were creating. As I kissed my way lower, I felt her hands urging me on, guiding me to where she wanted me most. With each breath, I felt the electric anticipation build, the tension in the air thickening with desire as I reveled in the taste of her, savoring every moment, every gasp, every whispered encouragement. "Anna, please," she begged softly, and the need in her voice sent a rush of warmth through me. I lifted my gaze to meet hers, my heart swelling with love and desire. In that moment, everything else faded, and all that mattered was the two of us, lost in our own world, united in this beautiful dance of passion and longing. Together, we surrendered to the depths of our connection, discovering the incredible intimacy that had blossomed between us, an uncharted territory that felt both exhilarating and profoundly right.